speeches. The last several chapters that you have done have explained the speech process to you and what you need to do. And speeches are a process, okay? So that means that process implies steps. So you should be, following the steps. This explains those steps sort of in brief to you, okay? Chapters 9 and 10 and sort of go more in depth. This is just sort of a brief summary of what steps you should do, right? Our first speech is informative speech, so your general purpose is going to be to inform, right? And then you choose a topic, you get your specific purpose, you get your thesis. The book talks about doing all of that, and you just do it in those orders of those steps. The book explains that, and this template is what you use to write that full sentence outline. So as you're planning your speech, you should be filling this information in on your outline so that when you're finished, you've got that full sentence outline that sort of is your speech plan, right? And it's in depth, it's detailed, main points are full sentences, subpoints are full sentences, okay? And you just sort of put it together. You're going to turn that outline in when you turn in your speech, okay? This is an example of what one looks like when you sort of put it together, and over in the margin it tells you everything that you should include, right? Remember, if you use any material that doesn't come out of your own brain, if you use any source, you're not required to use any sources in this speech, but if you use any source in this speech, you have to cite them in the speech itself, and you have to provide a bibliography page for your outline, okay? Otherwise, you plagiarized. And this is the guidelines for that. So just follow these guidelines. Make sure you do everything it tells you to do in here, okay? You're going to practice with that full sentence outline. It's not an essay. An essay is different. It's an outline. You're going to practice with that full sentence outline until you feel comfortable with it, and then you're going to change that full sentence outline into a speaking outline. And the book gives you an example of an outline for informative speech and an outline for persuasive speech in chapter 11, okay? And then you will, you'll shorten into your speaking outline, and then that's what you use when you deliver your speech, right? Now, you're not reading your speech, right? You're delivering a speech. So you shouldn't write down your speech and stand in front of your camera and read it, right? This is not public reading. It is public speaking. And keep that in mind. This is formal public speaking, right? I have students in my my public speaking class the other day, I was watching a speech that a student had put together, and he was sitting on his bed delivering his speech. You're not making a social media video, okay? This is formal public speaking. You got to get on your feet. You've got to, the camera is your audience. So just remember that and make sure that, you deliver it in a formal manner. And that's what those two chapters talk about, right? Okay. The second one will be a persuasive speech, and chapter 11 goes into detail about persuasive speaking. And when you're trying to persuade people, you're trying to convince them. It talks about logic, evidence. You have to use good evidence. And then it talks about fallacies, which are errors in reasoning. Okay. And make sure that you read all of that and do all that, because part of the quiz for chapter 11 is those logical fallacies and things of that nature. And so make sure you understand those. That's something that everybody needs to understand, regardless of what your major is, regardless of what you're doing or not doing. You become a better consumer of information if you understand how persuasion works. we just finished the presidential, well, we're not finished with the presidential election, but no presidential election is over until the Electoral College votes. That's the way our system works. So we just finished the voting that will signal to the Electoral College how they should vote. And then in December, the Electoral College will meet and cast their votes and then choose a president-elect. But I watch all these advertisements and all these people campaigning out there, and that is persuasion. And I listen to them, and I see the lack of evidence for what they're trying to say. I see the use of logical fallacies over and over again, and I'm just thinking, by the way, on both sides, the students who are around me some and they get to talk to me in person, and the people who know me, they hear me use the term college football politics a lot. And that's the problem. Everybody's got their team, and their team can't do wrong, and the other team can't do right. And that's probably the biggest problem in politics today is college football politics. You got to root for your team, okay? And both teams are laughing at all of us. But so I'm not on one side or the other. I don't have a whole lot of faith, and I do have a whole lot of disgust for both teams. But I watch it both ways. And I watch people say things and manipulate things, and then I watch people fall for the rhetoric on both sides. And part of the reason they fall for it is because they're not good consumers of information. Understanding how persuasion works makes you a better consumer of information. In my comp class, my students write an ad analysis. Advertising is persuasion. Okay, they're trying to persuade you of something. And so if you understand how persuasion works, you're a much better consumer of information when people try to persuade you, whether it's a company advertising something to you, or whether it's a politician, or whether it's a used car salesman, or whatever it is. And so you need to be better at that. So make sure that you read chapter 11 in the book when it discusses persuasion, but make sure that you read this material in the modules also, because it's going to help you understand a lot of that stuff. Okay, and then your persuasive, this is your assignment topic, right? So your informative speech is 3 to 5 minutes. Make sure it is informative according to what chapter 11 explains informative is. I don't care if it's an object, concept, event, process, none of that matters to me. Notice it says, do not read your speech. This is not public reading, it's public speaking. So if you use any outside sources, you're not required. You have to cite them verbally, following the guidelines in the textbook, and you have to put them on your bibliography page. Once you have recorded your speech, you're going to submit your speech, and there's two parts to this, okay? Up here in the very first module, this is the guidelines for your speech. These are the guidelines you have to follow for your speeches. Once you've recorded it, this explains how to upload it from your recording device to Studio. Okay, you don't upload it into the assignment, you upload it to Studio. Because what happens is I have students who record things and they're in formats that I can't view, or there's issues like that, and they don't turn them in correctly. Next thing you know, I click on the link, I can't view anything. There's nothing there. Or I try to click on it and I don't have the program. They recorded it on an iPhone and I don't have the program I need to watch their iPhone video. And if I can't watch your speech, I can only give you one grade on it. Okay? And so uploading it to Studio does away with all those problems. Once you have uploaded it to Studio, then you submit it to the assignment, and this explains how to submit it to the assignment. It's a video, okay? And so make sure you watch this video. All the time what I have with students is they don't watch the video. It explains how to upload the assignment, and then I get emails going, I can't get the assignment uploaded, or I'm having trouble, or I email them and go, I can't see your speech, you didn't submit it correctly, and well, I don't know what I did wrong. And then, okay, bear with me. The magic of technology, and I come down here and I click, and look at that. That's everybody in my class. And if I click on an individual name, it's going to tell me whether or not you watched that video and how much you watched. Because I have students who will start it and then they'll fast forward to the end, or they'll skip over parts. All right? And if I look at this and you haven't watched the video and you can't submit, I have no sympathy for you. All right? You won't watch a 2-minute video that explains how to submit and watch it to the end. If you skip over, then students don't know how to submit their outline. It explains all of that. But that only matters after you've uploaded to Studio. Upload to Studio, then submit. And really and truly, submitting is fairly easy. When you click on the assignment, you're going to have a big submission button. You click submit, it's going to kick you down, and it's going to be like 3 little menus. One of them is going to say Studio. You click it, you should see your video that you've uploaded, and then you click on that video and it'll tell it to submit it, and then it's a lot simpler than it was a year ago, let's say. Okay, this is where you submit your persuasive speech when it gets time for that. The assignment for the persuasive speech is a little bit different. It's got to be 5 to 8 minutes long. Okay, has to be persuasive. So make sure you read all that material. You need a minimum of 3 outside sources of information. You have to verbally cite those sources following the guidelines, and the sources have to be credible for an academic setting. Now let me explain this no more than one website thing. Students always look at that and they get all worked up. What I mean by that, I'm not saying you can't use more than one digital source. I'm saying you can't use more than one website. If I go to Google and type in, let's say, school uniforms is what I'm persuading you about, and it brings up all these Google results, most of those are websites, okay? If I go and find an online journal, or if I go in and go to the library page and go to the ABL and find sources there, and it's a digital magazine or a digital book or digital journal, that's not a website, that's a journal, okay? And so that's what it means. So make sure you follow everything that goes with it. You need professional attire. In other words, no t-shirts and shorts or, whatever. You cannot do any of these topics, okay? And there's a reason for all of them. Bullying is actually, I explain it in the information in the module about persuasive speeches, about persuasion. The COVID-related stuff is too early. The science isn't in. They're still working on that. And so there's incomplete science. You can't do a good speech when the science is not complete. So stay away from those topics, okay? And then, so it's the same thing. Go record this. And notice this. Make sure the information is geared into it. I have students who'll do an informative speech, and the informative speech is, how to tie your shoe. What college student doesn't know how to tie a shoe? If you don't know how to tie your shoe at this point, you figured out Velcro at least. So, make it something that is college level. I have students who give these speeches, and I'm sitting here thinking, I had a student do a process speech on how to make a bowl of cereal for breakfast. And I'm thinking, my 10-year-old has been making cereal, her own cereal, for years. Come on, and that's the comment. The first comment on her speech material when I gave it back was, is this appropriate for this audience? Okay, so make sure that whatever you choose is something that's appropriate to college students. But that's your second speech, and you'll turn it in. Okay? And then we got to, so what we really have left, you've got to get your any quizzes that, if you haven't done the chapter 11 quiz, you got to get it done. And then the unit test will pop. Then the unit test will open and you'll have a week or so to get it done, not counting the Thanksgiving week. So you have that left. Then you have, of course, your 2 speeches, and then a couple of little assignments that are fairly easy to offset some things. This is a video, since we're doing public speaking, this is a video of President Reagan delivering a speech after the Challenger disaster. The Challenger was a space shuttle and it blew up. And people were watching the Challenger take off and saw it blow up. A lot of school kids did. And, it was sort of one of those earth-shattering moments. And so watch the video, and then this explains what you need to do. It explains it in there too. So watch the video and just write a little 250-word critique of the speech. Critique is what somebody does well or does poorly, what's good, what's bad. That's all you have to do. So based on the material in the textbook, it talks about how to put together a good speech, good public speaking, good delivery, all of that. Just tell me what you think about it. So, guys, 250 words is about half a page single-spaced. So it's not long. So just, what do you think? You can talk about word choice. You can talk about vocal delivery. You can talk about any of the stuff they talk about that deals with delivery. You can do any of that. And so just sit down and write up, if you double space, it'll be a page. If you single space, about half a page. Make sure it's at least 250 words. Critique based on chapters 9 and 10, and tell me what you think about a speech. It doesn't have to all be good. And don't just say it was good, or it was bad. You got to give me specifics. So if you tell me that it's good, good word choice, give me an example from the speech of what you thought was the good word choice. One of the greatest lines from modern speech giving is in that speech. And every time I hear him say that particular sentence, it sends chills up my spine. And so his word choice is really, really good. When he says, to slip the bonds of earth to touch the face of God, that just gives me chills. So, so give me any, examples that support. And then we're going to do this little extra, this one little project thing. You're going to write me a little essay that sort of closes everything out. And really what it's going to be is from the different units we've done, discuss something you've learned this semester that will make you better at that. So discuss something you've learned this semester that'll make you a better interpersonal communication. Give me something that you think will make you better at small group and something that's better at public. This is an essay, introduction, body, conclusion, two pages double spaced. So it's about 500 words is what that works out to be. So you've got till the end of the semester to do that. And so that's really what we've got left in the semester is if you haven't done the quiz, one unit test, your couple speeches, and you can do it all at your pace. These are the final days this is due. If you wanted to sit down tomorrow and knock out a bunch of this stuff, you could go ahead and do that. And then our final exam goes chapters 1 through 16, with the exception of chapter 12. And it's 100 multiple choice questions over what we've covered. You can get extra credit on your final, up to 20 points. Guys, I don't know if you can do the math on that, but 20 points is a nice chunk. That's 2 letter grades. All you have to do is sit down and make out a 50-word final. A 50-question final. Right? You've got to study for the final anyway. While you're studying your notes, just sit down and make it out. You can do it in Microsoft Word and put it together. No Quizlet, anything like that. It's got to follow these. Got to be your work. I've done this in other classes, and I've had students regurgitate. I had one student who give me back questions from my own unit tests. And I'm like, what? Those are my questions. They're not yours. That doesn't help you study. The purpose is to help you study for the final. And then if you do that and you put it together and do what you're supposed to do, then if you follow all the guidelines and do it exactly the way it's supposed to be done here, then I'm going to give you 20 points on whatever you make on the final, up to 100. If you make an 85 on your final, then I'm not giving you 20 points, I'm giving you 15, because that's 100. Okay? And so that's pretty handy. And what you're going to find, if you sit down and do this and put a little effort into it, you're probably going to make better on the final anyway. Okay? Just put out the question, give me possible answers, and make sure you designate what the correct answer is. I put a asterisk beside it. You can do an asterisk. Some students come in and they highlight the correct answer in a different color or do something like that. I don't care, as long as I look at your choices of answers and I can tell what the correct answer is. Okay? Now, students being students, the day before the final opens. So the 8th of December, something like that, I think. Yeah. Okay. And the final opens on the 9th, I think it is, and then stays open. Okay. So it's just a chance. You've got to study anyway. Well, if you want to, be successful in the final, you've got to study. And so this is a chance while you're studying, to just throw some stuff together and get some extra points on the final to boot. Probably up your grade on the final, not just with the extra credit, but up your grade on what you would make on the final anyway, because you've studied. And guys, look, I don't know. I've taught a while. I didn't fall off a truck out in front of the campus here and wander up with a head injury and them go, hey, you want to teach? I've done this a long time. I've taught at universities. I've taught at other colleges. And I'll be honest with you, regardless of how long I've done this, students still puzzle me sometimes. So I've got something similar to this that I do in some of my other classes, and I'll go through and look, and I'll have questions 1 through 20, and then I'll have questions 40 through 50. They'll leave out 21 through 39. I guess they think I'm not going to look. I don't know. I have students who'll do, say it's 50. I have students who'll do 35 questions. I guess they think I'm not going to look. I'm not going to check them, Yeah. And the funny thing is, in one of my classes, it's not worth 20 points. It's worth less, but they get to do it for both of their tests, or two out of 3 tests. And after the first one, I will go in and actually put, hey, you didn't mark the answers on questions 15, 17, 23. So you can tell I'm reading the questions because I point out the fact they didn't mark all their answers. And, and you only did 40 questions, and then the next one, they'll do the same thing. So I don't know. If you don't want to do it, don't. It's not going to hurt your grade. It doesn't count off. And it tells you that. It doesn't affect your grade. There's no penalty if you don't do the assignment. You're not going to lose any points or anything like that. But if you want to put the effort into it and do it, then you can, and I'll throw some points your way. It seems like a fairly good deal to me. But, what do I know? Anyway. So, make sure on your speeches, like I said, read all this stuff. Don't just read the chapters and read the material in the module. And this sort of lays it out to you, exactly the process to go through. And guys, you've got to practice these things. I listen to speeches, what's today, Thursday? I listen to speeches Tuesday in my 107 class. And one of those students, without a doubt, there was no doubt that student had practiced 0. It was a train wreck. I mean, really bad speech, and then that was the reason why they hadn't put any effort into it. So, I don't know. But, their grade reflected that also. I don't know why students think that they can come in and not put any effort, any practice into it. You got to practice. So if you follow this and you do it exactly the way this explains to you how to do it, then you're probably going to deliver a pretty good speech. Okay? Sort of walks you through it. And like I said, it's the same exact stuff the book tells you. It just is sort of a condensed version that gives you the overall. In the book, you got to read the book to fill in the blanks on it. Okay? So when you do your informative speech, choose a topic you're interested in, build your outline, practice with your outline. When you feel comfortable, shorten your outline into your note cards that you want to use when you deliver your speech. And when you feel good about that, then sit down and not sit down, stand up, and do your speech for real and record it and then upload it. Okay? And life will be good. Okay? It's not as bad as people think it. I know several of you probably are in this class because it's not public speaking and you were trying to avoid public speaking in general, but it's not. It's 100% a mental thing, okay? And look, guys, I understand. Speech anxiety is a real thing. Fear of public speaking. I have students who go through it. I have a dose of it, so I completely understand where you're coming from. And all fears are mental. Fears are not physical, they're mental. Okay, they may have physical manifestation, but they're mental things. And I know they're difficult to overcome. I have a son that's 6'8", and he's afraid of spiders. And I just scratch my head at him and go, why? You can step on it and kill it. And that's one of my rule of thumbs is I'm not afraid of anything that I can step on and kill. It just doesn't seem to make sense for me to do that. But fears are not rational things, and I understand that. So, but as I tell my students when they deliver their speeches, I've never lost a student. I've never had a student get in front of everybody, start to deliver a speech and die. Nobody dies from stage fright. Okay? So, put some effort into it and do a good job, and you'll be fine. Life will be good. Okay? But remember, it's not public reading. And I know I've said that, and it's written down in several different places. Okay? So that's sort of how our semester ends for us. And like I said, I know that speech is due on the 24th. You can put it, you can upload it anytime. And some students already have. Some students have already submitted their speech. It's the same thing on this one. This is the last possible day to do any of this. If you were just one of those individuals who's a hard charger and you said, I want to be done, you could actually sit down over the next few days and then, Monday, submit everything, do this speech and then take your exam and then do your little critique and then write this. And then all you would have left, after Monday afternoon would be to take the final when it opened. Because other than the final, none of this has an opening date. It only has closing dates. So you can do it when you want to do it and be finished with it. Okay? That's up to you. And like I told you, that falls due on the Monday of Thanksgiving. But if you do like some students have done and you finish it and submit it, nothing else falls due during that week. I tried to for all my classes, I tried to sort of set it up where students didn't have anything on that Thanksgiving week, unless they chose to. So, okay, any questions? Because I get the joy of walking down the hall here in just a few minutes and listening to speeches. So hopefully they'll be good today. And of course, if you have any questions or anything, you can always shoot me an email and ask me. I'm sorry about it starting late. I was actually meeting with another faculty member, and one of your classmates sent me an email And when I looked at the email, I looked at the clock, and I realized that I was late. So that's completely on me. I think I'm, pretty close to the same place that everybody else is this semester. I'm just trying to hang on till it's over, and I'll be happy when it is over. Next semester is going to be better. We're going to keep telling ourselves that. Okay. All right. So if you've got any questions, by all means, ask them. If you don't, that's all that I have.